Somewhere in the ocean, the space surveillance ship Akademik Volkov is preparing to receive data from the Mir orbital station. Senior researcher Nadya Vinogradova contacts the cosmonauts and everything is going according to schedule. Suddenly, one of the cosmonauts notices an unidentified flying object rapidly approaching the station. She draws the attention of her colleagues to this phenomenon, which turns out to be a huge cloud of electricity. As the station flies through it, the extraterrestrial electricity passes through all the protective equipment and affects everything inside, including the cosmonauts. Some of the energy goes to the ship through the transmitting dish. Nadya notices that the computers are falling under someone else's control, although only the captain has the access codes, and then people lose consciousness. 7 days later, a typhoon rages in the ocean. The tugboat Morskaya Zvezda is towing a barge with cargo through the storm. The crew realizes that if the barge starts to sink, it will pull the tugboat with it. They try to force the captain to cut the ends, but Captain Everton, who has invested all his money in the uninsured cargo, refuses to get rid of the barge with a revolver in his hands. As a result, the rope itself breaks and the barge sinks. Everton locks himself in the cabin and is going to shoot himself. But suddenly, Navigator Foster notices a splash on the radar and discovers a motionless vessel nearby. This is reported to the man, and he orders to set a course for the unknown ship. The tug approaches the drifting vessel, but all attempts to get at least a response are in vain. Foster finds information about the vessel in the maritime directory. This is the largest biolaboratory in Russia, with no weapons on board. But there is the latest equipment. Having received no answer, Everton orders to go on board the ship. The ship looks battered, traces of gunfire are visible, all the electronics on the bridge are broken, and the documents are scattered. The power supply is completely cut off, and it seems that the ship has been captured. The captain smiles contentedly because according to maritime laws, a ship found without a crew is considered ownerless. All they have to do is bring the vessel to the nearest port and return it to the Russian government for a reward. However, Foster reminds that the law only works if there is not a single living crew member on board. Everett declares that they will not find any living ones here. The rest of the crew agree with the captain's plan and get to work. The engineer and mechanic go to the engine room and realize that the devices are simply turned off. As soon as they lift the switches, everything starts working. But as soon as the power supply is restored, strange things begin. A mechanical roar comes from the cables, and the onboard computers live their own lives, which worries Foster. She immediately reports to the captain that someone is controlling the computer, but he does not believe in this possibility. He does not notice that the electronic eye is reading information from his badge. At this moment, the ship's anchor falls down by itself and breaks through the deck of a tug moored nearby, causing it to sink. The captain informs Baker about this. He asks Pesclia to stay below, and he himself hurries to the deck. The man notices that Hiko cannot swim out. He jumps into the sea and saves him. The people understand that there is someone on the ship after all. Baker warns Pesclia and asks to lock the doors to the engine room. Hiko is carried to the infirmary. At this time, Pesclia is captured and dragged away. 2 crew members examine the ship and find a whole arsenal of weapons. Nearby, there is an installation similar to a catapult, but the guys notice that the floor of the room is covered in something. Woods asks his comrade to quickly leave the compartment. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, people talk about where to spend their money. Suddenly, they are attacked by a man in a gas mask and with a machine gun. Baker knocks out the attacker. Everyone is surprised to see a woman under the gas mask, and thermite mines are found in her backpack. Baker tries to contact Pesclay, but does not receive an answer and goes to the bridge. At this time, Richie and Woods discover strange mechanical parts, which they recognize as parts of robots. The attacking woman is the surviving Nadya. Foster tries to calm her down, but she demands to turn off the power. The captain ridicules her, but Nadya says that the entire crew died or disappeared after something penetrated the ship. The creature took over the computers and obtained all the information in order to learn how to destroy people. The last ones left alive were the captain and she. They cut the cables so that the creature could not move. Foster realizes that the woman is not herself. The captain shackles her hands. Meanwhile, Richie and Woods find an autonomous conveyor for assembling robots in the hold. They watch the assemblers work, and suddenly one of them attacks Woods. He orders Richie to run. An armed man bursts into the hold and opens fire. Richie warns Baker of the danger and of Woods' injury. The engineer orders his comrade to be taken to the engine room and hurries there himself, but Pesclia does not answer, and the doors are welded shut. The people are again attacked by an unknown person who turns out to be a cyborg. The captain is unhappy and demands to know where Pesklaya is. Nadya demands to de-energize the ship. Baker, Richie, and Woods bring some kind of symbiosis of man and robot to the bridge. Nadya recognizes her husband, who was the captain of the ship. The woman continues her story about the energy that came from the space station and captured all the ship's power systems. The cosmic force then took over the workshops and began to build robots. The survivors abandoned the ship and went to sea in boats, and only she and Alexei decided to fight. This life form is energetic and can extract what it needs from the ship's systems and human bodies. Richie is amazed at the level of technology that allowed such a cyborg to be created. Everton begins to accuse Nadya of Russian medical experiments being conducted on the ship. He is interrupted by a storm that has begun. To save the ship, the engines need to be turned on. The team hurries to the engine room and suddenly the people feel a turn. The ship has determined its own course. There is a knock behind the door, and Baker sees Pesklaya through the peephole. He knocks down the door and the team sees Pesklaya, who has become a cyborg. Woods dies in a huge machine, and the crew barricades itself in the communications room. Richie fixes the radio, but it is immediately smashed with a shotgun by Everton, who still wants to get money for the ship. Foster rebels, beats the captain, and frees Nadya. The cyborg knocks on the door, and people decide to try to establish contact with the unknown creature. They manage to call the creature into a dialogue in the computer network. The alien calls itself consciousness. It says that man seems extremely dangerous to him personally and to the entire planet as a whole. The alien calls people a virus. He needs the survivors as organs and body parts suitable for cybernetics. After this, the conversation ends. People discuss ways to destroy the alien. Pesklaya breaks through the barricades. He is destroyed with all available weapons. Richie decides to find a way to escape from the ship alone. The rest understand that they need to destroy the main computer. Captain Everton contacts Consciousness. He negotiates a profitable exchange and offers to take the ship to any place indicated by the alien. He orders the captain to go to the workshop. At this time, Richie makes his way to the deck. Foster and her team discover that the main computer has disappeared from the deck where it was supposed to be. The captain comes into the hold where he is amazed by the scale of the construction. The alien asks to help him survive. Meanwhile, the survivors are trying to get out, but all the doors in their path are welded shut. People are trying to break them down, and suddenly the cyborg attacks them. Hiko stays behind to let the others go. The three survivors reach the deck, but there is a strong storm outside, and they have to escape from the waves in the wheelhouse. Foster determines the course of the ship and understands that if the cosmic intelligence gets to the cluster of electronics, the world will be instantly captured. Suddenly, they receive a signal from a rescue ship that has noticed them, asking to mark their location with a missile, but Foster is categorically against it. The spread of the virus cannot be allowed. Nadya suggests blowing up their ship and sinking it. Suddenly, Everton, who has become a cyborg, breaks in. Foster shoots the captain, but he remains invulnerable. Nadya manages to quietly take possession of her bag and stuff a grenade into the cyborg's body. Now the consciousness knows about the plans to blow up the ship, and they need to hurry. Foster, Baker, and Nadya go down to the hold, where they unexpectedly meet Richie, who refuses to help them and leaves. The team prepares to blow up the ship, but when they want to warn Richie, the consciousness attacks. The alien stuns Baker and Nadya, and Foster falls into a tank where pieces of sailors are floating. The woman tries to get out of the scary place, but she is grabbed by the alien who wants to know the location of the detonator. Richie comes to help. Nadya frees Foster. The consciousness throws a large structure at the men. The women run away while the cyborg pursues them. They manage to hide. Nadya suggests putting on life jackets and trying to escape to sea. Meanwhile, Baker comes to his senses and tries to free Richie, but he is seriously injured and cannot go any further. He tells the man about the rescue catapult he has prepared and a bomb made of warheads and grenades. Foster and Nadya prepare to leave the ship, but Cyborg catches up with them. He grabs Nadya and demands to tell the location of the bombs. The woman detonates a gas cylinder. Foster manages to escape to the next room, where Baker finds her. He leads her to the catapult, while the consciousness pursues them. Baker understands that the catapult is designed for one person and wants the girl to be saved, but she hugs him and they manage to catapult together. The consciousness does not have time to react to the cable that detonates the explosives. The captain, who responded to the ship's distress signal, starts moving there. In the morning, Foster comes to her senses among the wreckage of the ship next to Baker. Then she spots Hiko on a nearby wreck. She swims to him, but he turns out to be a cyborg. Foster wakes up screaming in the rescue helicopter. Baker reassures her that they succeeded.